it's about time we address the situation and begin to get back to you. We hold a candle like vigil for your self-respect. Reputation is destroyed by what you can expect to be the faceless in between. Because I know you can handle it. To face the truth of the matter, it's still so much better to leave the light than drag it to your grave. Because you see what to make of this, how you can turn your own tables and work this, and take advantage of your failure like you planned to anyway. And it's about time we address the situation and begin to get back to you. We hold a candle like vigil for your self-respect. Reputation destroyed by what you can expect to be the faceless in between. You're still alive, but you've been dead inside for a long time. And I understand why. But you did this to yourself. You did this to them. You don't even remember the names. Why should anybody remember you? Why should anyone do you any good? You know they won't. You know you deserve to be forgotten. Now you're everything you always decide. The moments you killed for those innocent lives. All this effort to cover up what you've become. We already know. We already see. Wake up and be better before you. And it's about time we address the situation and begin to get back to you. We hold a candle like vigil for your self-respect. Reputation destroyed by what you can expect to be the faceless in between.
This program is a collaboration of personal opinions and individual free thought. It does not represent the views or narrative of the mainstream corporate media hacks. Viewer discretion is advised.
And here we go.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, nothing is working there it is.
Taking a stand for your rights, your liberties, and all the bullshit in between. You're listening to Break the Barrel Podcast.
No, I just put that part on the wrong spot on the audio, and so I was like, "Where is that sound?" And there it is. It decided to come in a few seconds late, but it's there. I always decide to do things like last minute, and it never works out for me. So that's all right. We are running a few minutes behind, and that's okay because our guest tonight is also running a few minutes behind. Bill, have you ever heard of this thing called the 24 presidential election?
No, when is that?
That is in 2024. Last I
Oh,
checked.
Wow, that means it's what, like 4 months away?
Something like that. Yeah, it's already started. It's already began. What's that
Yes.
sound? Are you? Oh, your table is tapping on the mic freaking stand, and it is going to drive me nuts. So, fix yourself. Get your shit together so I can
Hey,
get mine
I'm out of
together.
practice. Okay.
Oh, okay. So tonight we have the special honor of having yet another presidential candidate. Remember when
Yes.
we had Spike on? You weren't.
Yeah.
You weren't. There.
I was not. You were live. You were
I got,
live with your remote headquarters.
I got to do it without you,
Yes.
and it was probably better because you weren't there.
That's
But
true.
this time,
That's
it's gonna be great because
Yes.
we have the honor of having Joshua Smith, the Libertarian presidential candidate, on our show. And what's so great about this is he's coming on our show. What is happening? That is not what we want. It just like starts into the next song. Go the fuck away. Oh, good. What's great about this is he gets to come on our shitty show. Clearly,
Yes.
shitty show.
Yes.
Before he's slated to go on Timcast
Wow.
in a
That's
couple
awesome.
weeks. So we'll get to hear
We're
about
the
that. and
first
we'll
to
get
vet him, really, right?
Yeah. Well, I just figured we might as well have him on first because after that I mean, what we are doing is building up his expectations for a better show. So if it was in
That's what we
reverse,
do.
if it was in reverse, he'd go on that show and be like, I don't want to go on
Yeah,
their show.
Sorry, guys.
Actually, you probably would. Josh is here. Josh, you're in the comments, but you're not here. I think he's having
Yes.
dinner, but he is
Oh,
in the
okay.
comments. He said, "Let's go." So Josh is commenting, but he's not quite here yet.
Gotcha.
He's making a
Preemptive.
he's made like a grand entrance at some
Gotcha.
point.
I like
So
it.
we got to get through. We got to get our shit together before he
Yes.
comes on anyway. So this works out perfectly. So like I said, Josh Smith is going to be coming on. He's the presidential candidate for the Libertarian Party. He's actually from here in Iowa.
I
He
saw
lives
that.
in Des Moines. Well, he's not from Des Moines, but he
Okay.
lives in Des Moines.
Okay.
For God knows whatever reason he
Oh, it's
came to
it's a
the
nice
Midwest.
place to hide.
I guess so, and then decide, hey, we're
I'm
going to
run for president.
president.
Yes.
Exactly. So he will be on. He will be discussing his platform. We're obviously going to grill him on
Yes.
all the issues and try to figure out why the fuck he decided, you know what? My life is going good. I should run for president.
Right?
You know, I mean, it just seems like, are you just giving up on life when you've reached that point? I
Yeah.
mean, or
You've gone as far as you're gonna get.
I
right?
guess so. Or maybe it's the fact that I mean, what do we got to go for? Like what
Right?
like when somebody that I would say is kind of like us, like
Yeah.
a normal human being, decides, you know, it's gotten so bad that I'm just going to throw my
Right.
hat in the mix because what's our other option? And
Yeah.
then he looks around at all the options. He's like, fuck, I guess I got to do
Yep.
this, you know?
Yeah, I better pull up my pants and go.
I don't know. Maybe Josh is just fucking crazy and just his
You'd have to be, right?
aspirations are to be
But
the
it's
president of the
good
United
that we
States.
still have people that are crazy that want to run for this office.
I mean,
right?
I'm crazy, but I have no
yes. Well, you haven't
dream of running for the office.
You haven't hit that rock bottom yet, where you're gonna be like, you know what, I'm just gonna run for president.
Jeez.
Fuck it,
Fuck it. What else could go wrong?
right?
So before we get to him, we're just going to kind of let you listen to us for a little bit
Yeah.
before he gets in here. Let him get his shit together. So
And as usually happens, you shoot me a message and be like, so we're gonna have so and so on the show. Have you heard of him? No.
No.
Well, yeah, he's cool. You'll like him.
I knew you hadn't heard of him. I was just like, hey, having Josh Smith, the Libertarian presidential candidate, and you're like, oh, all right. I was like, yeah,
Yeah.
I met him at a show, and you're like, that's
Okay.
promising. I was like, he's fucking cool. He's gonna be on our show. So.
Well, I meant promising, like if you met him at the show, he's got to be cool.
Oh, okay. I
right?
thought you were like,
Oh no, I wasn't being
sarcastic.
sarcastic by it.
All right.
But after I said that, I thought you thought that I was
Yes.
being sarcastic.
I did think you were being sarcastic. I was
You're
like,
like,
what a
dick.
What a dickhead. This guy, I mean, your standards must be a lot higher than I thought they were, because I thought our standards were pretty low at this point. So obviously, before we get into the show, we have to let you know to check us out all over the social medias, because we're on them.
Yeah.
We've been kind of like away from them this summer. I think
it's
both of
summer.
us have collectively
We
been
have.
more away from the social medias than is typical
typical.
of us. Yeah. But I mean, this is our third summer doing this shit.
Yeah.
And like
Yeah.
we busted our ass for 2 summers straight. Like
Yeah.
I was working on podcasts, like editing podcasts on vacation under like a pavilion at a campground. And then you've phoned into podcasts from hotels on
hotel
vacation.
lobbies.
So this summer it's just like, you know what?
Yeah.
I'm gonna take vacations and take some time away and stuff. And like last week we weren't here, just mostly because I didn't fucking want to do it last week. There was nothing to talk about. There was no new news. And Trump wasn't even arrested at that point.
No.
So it's just like nothing new. And so I text you, I was like, I got nothing to talk about. You? And you're like, not yet. I'm like, let's just skip this week.
Yeah.
And then I ran into Josh for this week. I'm like, you know, that's a good thing to come back with.
Well, that was perfect, because we had talked. Is like, you know, I think it's time for a guest.
It was time for a guest. And then I just bumped into Josh. And
it worked.
It's all downhill. I don't know. That's the rest is history. How about that?
There you go.
The rest is history.
I like it.
So we are on social media. You can find us at our handle at Break the Bell Pod on X, Twitter. I mean, it's still twitter.com, but everybody. Did you know when you go to like hit retweet now, it doesn't even call it retweets. It says repost. He got rid of like everything related to Twitter except for the website twitter.com is the only place.
Weird.
Yeah, it is really bizarre. What he did there. But anyway, we are on there at the handle at Break the Bell Pod. We're also on Facebook at the same handle. We have a what's it called? A forum. Forum. This is the chat thing.
Yes.
We need a chat room. Old school chat room.
Yes. Do they do those anymore?
Probably.
They do. They do, because I joined a site.
Yeah, because you're in one of them.
Yeah, right.
You're like, oh, did they do? Oh, yeah, I did.
Well, actually, I
declined.
declined. They're like, do you want to enter the chat room? I'm like, no, I don't. So.
Well, sure.
I don't got time for that.
Ain't nobody got time for that. Anyways, you can find all the shit we do at our website, which is breakthebell.com. That's another thing I haven't updated in a while, but we do have that website and links to all the things we do. Otherwise, you can buy our merch, buy our garbage, all that shit. Josh is in the waiting room now, so I'm not going to keep. I mean, I feel like I've been just kind of dragging this thing out.
Yeah.
Which is what I typically do. So we're going to get right into this intro video. And when we come back, we're going to get into the real part of the show, which is obviously Josh Smith. So don't go anywhere. This is going to be fun. We will be right back.
What did you say?
You talking to me?
What the heck are you talking about?
What did you say?
What did you say?
What did you say?
Are you talking to me?
Are you talking to me? Are you talking to me?
What are you talking about? What are you talking about?
What are you saying?
What did you say?
Are you talking to me? Well, maybe he was talking to me. What did you say?
Talk to me.
What in heaven's name are you talking about?
Talk to me, baby.
Did you just say?
What did you say?
You listen to me. Are you talking to me?
Are you talking to me?
What the hell are you talking about? Who are you talking to?
What do you think about when you hear it? Is it a 250? Do you think of the founding fathers penning words that would forevermore see a nation and its people free of tyranny? Is it 4th of July barbecues and time with your family? Is it your right to peacefully speak your mind without fear of violent repercussion? Is it perhaps a republic of the represented, led by public servants who listen to the will of its people? Or is it whatever this bullshit is? We're in a downward spiral of insanity. Forever wars, inflation, constant attacks on our natural rights by the very people that campaign on protecting them, and petty tyrants around every corner looking to use the crushing weight of the federal government to strip you of your personhood for wrongthink. Enough already. My name's Joshua Smith, and I'm running for president of the United States of America. I'm running on a radical platform to end the wars, end the Fed, and restore some sanity to this once great nation. We are fed up with lifelong politicians who legislate policy that hurts Americans in their pocket, in their livelihood, and in their property. We need a drastic overhaul of the status quo. I'm under no illusion that the powers that be will allow me into the White House. We may not win, but together, we can send a message to Washington that most of us are fed up with the constant barrage of filth they shove down our throats in DC. We can challenge lifelong politicians for their long-held positions of power. We can make the powerful elite change their position on policy. We can be loud enough to disrupt the corporate news media and their agenda to weaken America. Together with the 61% of the population who was so fed up they didn't even cast a vote for president in 2016, we can make the changes that give us the power back. Let's take our frustrations to the ballot box in 2024 and send a message that we're ready to opt out of the status quo. Enough already. My name's Joshua Smith, and I'm running for president. I'm ready to fight back. Are you?
Sweet intro, bro.
Thank you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the show the host of the Break the Cycle podcast, which is kind of almost the same fucking name as ours. I didn't realize that till like today. I was like, wow.
Didn't know that.
Also, the former or ex-vice chair of the Libertarian National Committee and your future president, Mr. Joshua Smith. Joshua, how's it going?
Oh, I'm doing just fine, man. Thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it.
Josh, I got to preface this first. You've got to be the first and only presidential candidate that I will have ever ran into trying to start a circle pit in a Elder Emo band concert.
Well, I am, in fact, an Elder Emo and a longtime punk rock fan and a longtime metalhead. And, you know, sometimes at 40, you just can't help yourself. You know, you got to go in there. And I woke up the next morning with a sore neck, sore back.
Yeah. Worth it, right?
It was totally worth it. It was a great show. I mean, I was hurting just from holding the camera. I wasn't even like the one jumping around. I was holding Dan's big ass camera over my head, and then I woke up the next day like, wow, my shoulders fucking hurt. I'm so old, and I wasn't even moshing.
It was a very big camera that Dan has, and
yes.
but I had to throw down for my boy Dan. You know what I mean? Like it's
obviously,
you know, he's up there at 35, still rocking the mic like that. I gotta give him some love in the crowd.
Yes, and you are 40 and running for president as well as up jumping around trying to hurt yourself at the age of 40. So I guess my first and most important question going into your campaign is, have you done your research on the number of bedrooms they have at the White House? Because you have like freaking 20 kids or something.
Yeah, somebody asked me this, or somebody posted my video. They retweeted my video and they said, hurry up and get Josh in the White House. He needs all the extra rooms for his kids. And I posted the black guy in the yellow suit behind the tree, like rubbing his hands. It was like, this is me looking at the White House, you know? Yeah, it's a lot of rooms, man. We could definitely make that work. You know, we could probably even have some more kids.
No, like you definitely need more kids. So I don't know if you know the answer to this, but the answer is 16. There are 16 guest rooms at the White House. I did my research before.
So they wing is what you're saying.
Probably. So, President, first tell me a little bit about you, because I don't know, people who are not watching but possibly listening in the podcast land in the future, they don't know what you look like, but you don't look like a presidential candidate. You're not a political looking guy. I mean, you're wearing a hoodie so people can't see your full tatted sleeves and shit.
And by the way, this is a vote for vengeance hoodie, which is the campaign slogan. A vote for me is a
Nice.
vote for vengeance. So,
Well, I was actually going to ask what your slogan was, and that is fucking perfect. So, just tell us a little bit about Josh Smith. Like you're a podcast host. You're heavily involved, or at least used to be heavily involved in the Libertarian Party. I don't know what your involvement is now. And then all of a sudden you're like, you know what, this president thing is for me. Like, how does that happen? Who is Josh Smith?
Sure. So, prior to joining the military right after 9/11, I was a, pretty hardcore Republican, I would say, in my teens. And definitely a George Bush neocon style Republican. We got to get vengeance on the people that harmed our country.
Right. Right.
And, I was 17 when the towers were attacked. Sleeping on a garage floor at my cousin's house, basically. And he woke me up and he's like, "Hey man, check this out." And I was like, "What movie is this?" And he's like, "It's not a movie, man. This really happened." And I was like, wow, okay. And so I didn't really have much going on for me at 17. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to join the military to go fight these people. But I didn't really want to fight. That's why I joined the Navy instead of one of the places that would. But little did I know that within 6 months of joining the military, I'd be in the Persian Gulf fighting a war with Iraq, which was bizarre to me at the time because I'm 18. 18 at the time, almost 19 maybe. And I'm going, what the hell are we doing in Iraq, dude? Like Iraq had nothing at all to do with 9/11. And, I was sitting in the Persian Gulf when George Bush declared war on Iraq.
So from the beginning, you started questioning, like, okay, what the hell is going on?
Very, very quickly started questioning the warfare state. I didn't know that, I didn't know the term warfare state or military industrial complex or any of this shit at the time. But I was like, man, this is kind of weird. I thought these were Pakistani or Saudi nationals via Pakistan that attacked the towers. And, some guy up in a cave in Afghanistan was, pulling all the strings. And of course I've come a long way since then. Now, even about the official narrative of 9/11, I don't truly 100% believe what they told us.
Right.
But so that was my first questioning of the government, the federal government apparatus and military. And by the time we had been in the Gulf for 4 months or whatever, I was like, this is, people think that this is all desert. And we were a shock and awe campaign. Like, if you guys remember the shock and awe campaign.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
My battle group did that. Like I was on the USS Constellation and we dropped 100 million tons of ordnance on Baghdad. And all I could think was like, man, there's like kids that live there and like family pets. And there's like, people with dreams and goals and aspirations. People get up and put their shoes on every morning and go to work. You know what I mean? And it really sank in deep, like thinking about that stuff and thinking about like, what if this was Oakland, right, where I'm from, or what if this was Dallas, Texas, or any other big city in the United States, and it would be exactly the same thing. And I'll never forget, like they had these big drum rolls of like leaflets, paper leaflets that were written in Farsi, or what I think it's Farsi they speak in Iraq, and they had like little cartoon drawings on them, and they loaded these into these bombs on the planes, and they would drop them in the thousands and thousands over Baghdad, saying, "Get out of your home, we're going to start bombing." Basically, is what they all said, something different. And I just remember going like, dude, we got to tell like all these normal, regular people to get out of their homes because we're going to bomb their homes, like of all things. And so by the time we got back stateside, I was just done. Like I was absolutely jaded. And it hit me really hard. And so when I got out in 2005, or maybe end of 2004, I always forget. I was just really jaded on the direction of the country. I was jaded on like how many people were like pro-war. Everybody wanted to go to war. And everyone was like supporting the war in Afghanistan, and everybody supported this, war on weapons of mass destruction in Iraq that didn't exist. So I was just like, the Republican Party was leaving me because they were the party of McCain and George Bush at the time. Then I found Ron Paul in 2007. I was at a bar and having a drink, and it was like a Wednesday or something, and so the TVs were on, and it was Ron Paul speaking at an event, and he was just saying exactly how I felt. I got to hear the speech, right? The very famous speech now, what if, that kind of stuff. And, what if the Chinese came over and set up shop in the middle of Texas, basically. What would we think, right? And I started thinking, like, man, we have all these bases around all these countries. We have completely surrounded Iran to the point of where there's no ducking out of us saying that we've been provoking war with Iran for decades. The same thing with Russia. Everybody's always talking about, if anybody ever set up bases all along our border in Canada and all along our border in Mexico, we'd be at war. Period.
Oh yeah, we'd be destroying them immediately.
And so I was like, man, this guy's great. So I worked on Ron Paul's campaign in 2008 in California. And I worked hard. I street teamed for the guy. I tried to connect with California people about, why we need to get rid of this warfare state. So I was an anti-war activist first who found Ron Paul. And I didn't know about the Libertarian Party at this point, but I watched how the GOP treated Ron Paul. And it was like media blackout. They were arresting his delegates in places like Louisiana for trying to come into the conventions. I mean, it was gnarly. They really went out of their way to throw this guy under the bus. And I was like, I can't be a part of this party anymore, man. Like, I can't do it. This party does not hold my ideals near and dear to their heart. They don't care about freedom and liberty. They are not working to roll back the state. They are not trying to shrink the state. They are not trying to end the wars. They are not trying to fight the Federal Reserve. They're not doing the things that I hold near and dear to my heart that I know are messing up the middle class, especially, these things. And so about 2010, I had just went on my separate way and did some pro-liberty think tanks and publications and stuff like that. Nothing huge at this point. And then 2010, I joined the Libertarian Party for the first time because I think I heard Adam Kokesh talking about it, to be honest with you. And I was like, check this party out. They sound good. Their platform read really well to me. I was like, I believe in all this stuff, And you get idealistic. You're like, oh yeah, these guys are going to be big,
Right.
And so I joined. 3 months in, I had been emailing the National Party over and over and over and over again. Hey, what can I do to help? Show me where to go. I'm this hyped up liberty activist. I just worked on one of the most successful campaigns as far as a presidential campaign that didn't get the due it deserved. You know what I mean? And I was ready to focus that energy somewhere. And I got completely stonewalled by the Libertarian Party.
Really?
Really?
Yeah. Nobody ever reached out to me. Nobody told me. I didn't know that there were state affiliates. I didn't know that there were county affiliates. I didn't know anything about that because no one ever told me. And so I stopped my donation after 3 months of them and then just went back to doing my thing. And in 2014, 15, we started a publication called Think Liberty, which was pretty big for a while. And we were doing some cool interviews and had a lot of really cool write-ups and podcasts and all kinds of stuff on the network. And then in 2015, 16, I was looking at this presidential election going, Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump, of all the people that we could have picked in this world, that's who we go with. And there was no way I was going to be a part of this shit show. So I found the Libertarian Party again. I said, well, let me see what these guys are up to. And I was living in Southern Washington at the time, right across the river from Portland, Oregon. And so I joined the Washington State Party. I went to their state convention and I basically was the only one that showed up from the southern region of Washington. And they're like, great, you're the new region rep. And they just hired me on the spot to be the region rep and start. I had no idea how to run a party at the time. And so I went back down to Southern Washington. I started building county affiliates that they didn't have there. And it's hard. Let me tell you, across the river from Portland, Oregon, it's hard to be a libertarian. It's very hard to be a libertarian.
Oh yeah.
And so, the Antifa on the waterfront knew my car. They used to throw eggs at me and shit. It's a gnarly place. And so I started building these local affiliates. And this was around the time, Gary Johnson. So I was like, I'm going to campaign for this Gary Johnson guy. I didn't know about Bill Weld at the time, or I would have never touched that campaign. I just want to be clear about that.
No, you didn't. You're not a big Bill Weld fan.
No, Bill Weld is terrible garbage, horrible. I mean, the guy, we'll talk about him later, but he's a snake. He's a snake in Liberty clothing. But anyways, and for all intents and purposes, after the campaign, I found out that Gary was basically a snake too, and only ran to pay a debt to his campaign manager, basically.
Oh, wow.
Jeez.
And there's a whole show on that on Tom Woods by Judd Weiss called the Weiss Report. If you want to hear about what kind of shit Gary Johnson and Rod Nielsen were into, please look that up. So anyways, I started building these affiliates, and then I got into Nick Sarwark. I was watching this Nick Sarwark guy. He's the chair of the party, and he gave this empowered, passionate speech about how your tears are delicious and your party will die. And I was like, yes, this guy's awesome. He's going to take us to the promised land. 3 months later, he's taking shots at Eric July. He's taking shots at Tom Woods. He's taking shots at Scott Horton of all people, Michael Bolden. And I'm like, okay, this is Libertarian Party, like Libertarian Mount Rushmore. Forget the party. You're now attacking Libertarian Mount Rushmore. And I'm not gonna put up with that. So I was like, we had the publication, probably 16,000 daily followers and listeners, and I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna get somebody to run against this asshole,
Right.
So I start calling them around, and I'm like, hey, you guys got to run for some of the bigger names. I'm not gonna name them, but some of the bigger name libertarians that I knew. Hey, you got to run against this guy, and they're like, are you crazy? He's the most popular chair they've had in 50 years. That would be insane. He's a 2-term. He's a trial lawyer. He's a huge business owner in Arizona. Like, you're crazy. And I finally was like, you know what? These guys don't want to do it. I'm going to do it. Because that's just how I am. Like, if I can't find anybody that's willing to take up the sword and go fight, I've always been willing to do it. I may not get it done, but I'm going to try.
It's not what you want to do. It's nobody else is going to fucking do it.
Nobody else would do it. And so I was like, all right, you know what I'm going to do? And this is around the time the Mises Caucus was forming as well, 2017. I mean, there was no Mises Caucus prior to this. And so I put out an intent to run statement on Think Liberty from our publication, thinking it wouldn't go anywhere.
Right.
And it went, man. It flew out, and we went to 32 states in that year. I spoke in front of all kinds of people, thousands of people all over the country, shook hands. I actually closed down the ballroom at the Omaha Roads to Freedom Unconvention behind Ron Paul. So to come full circle, I'm speaking behind Ron Paul, hour-long speech. I'd never given one of those before,
Yeah.
And we lost. I think I got like 13% of the vote or something like that. It wasn't very high. But I did end up getting an at-large shot on the board. I ran for at-large at the convention when I lost the chair race. Became an at-large. I was a 2-year at-large on the board with Nick Sarwark as the chair. So I got to look at him in the eye through every meeting. And then I ran again in 2020 and barely lost. Of course, we think there was some cheating going on with the COVID stuff, and half the convention was online, half the convention was in person. It was really stupid. Yeah. But I ended up as an at-large again. So I served another 2 years as an at-large. And then I ran for vice chair last year in 2020 or 2022.
Okay.
And won my vice chair race. Of course, famously, anybody who knows me knows that I resigned 6 or 7 months ago now, because I helped this caucus get to the pinnacle, what we wanted to do, take over the LNC, and then I didn't feel like sorry.
Did your job, and you're like, I got nothing.
Well, I felt like we weren't doing what we were supposed to do. I mean, I felt like it was like we got to that pinnacle, and then everybody was like, all right, what now? And then there was some backstabbing going on, some snaky stuff, some backroom stuff that I wasn't going to put up with.
Right.
And so it was either shit all over all of my friends or walk away. And so I did. I walked away. I resigned. And then, I was like very jaded because I had just done 6 years of this work, traveling all over the country. I've been to 48 states over the last 5 years. I put a lot of time up away from my family. I put a lot of time up, away from jobs. In fact, in the first couple of campaigns, I lost a job. I lost a couple places to live. I was not doing well financially for a while. I really sacrificed so that we could get there. So I was really jaded when I resigned, and I knew that I was not in the headspace for national leadership of the party anymore. I was just far too jaded, and I was gonna shit on my friends. I really was. I was gonna start going nuclear on people that I had been side by side with for a long time, and it just wasn't a good place for me. And then this presidential race I've been watching very closely, because I was like, well, I'm just going to leave the party. Who cares anymore? I'm done with politics. I'm going to go be an anarchist in the woods somewhere,
Right.
And but I was like, yeah, Dave Smith's going to run. I'm ready to see this Dave Smith run, because it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun to watch. And it was a couple months ago where I realized Dave's probably not running, man. The Dave's not home, man. That's what I was thinking in my head. Like, Dave's not running, man. And I wasn't seeing anybody else step up to the plate. Chase Oliver, of all people, was like the front runner, and I'm like, oh no, dude, I can't do this. I can't put all this work into this and watch it fall apart like that. I built a pretty good national following. Everyone knows that I'm going to be bold and brave about our messaging. I'm not going to take a step back from that, no matter what I do in my life. And so I put together a little campaign, thinking it'd be kind of like a joke to some people and a challenge, kind of like when I ran for chair in 2018. And it's blown up, man. We got a 40-person campaign team. We've raised lots of money. I'll be on Tim Pool day after tomorrow. Now it's looking like we're going to get on a PBD, maybe Patrick Bet David. I mean, we got some big stuff coming up. and a lot of travel time, a lot of really great places that we're going to get to visit. I know I'm going to get to do a debate in Maine, a debate in Florida, a debate in South Carolina. And so we're gonna bring it. We're gonna run a really, really good campaign. Whether the delegates choose me next May in DC, we're gonna run the best campaign, period. And nobody's gonna beat us.
That was that's kind of my question, because I mean, you kind of touched on, you didn't really get into the details of the current state of the LP, but yeah, I mean, you kind of touched on it there and your reasoning for leaving and stuff. And we don't have to go into all that, but the LP kind of has a history of not nominating the person with the most traction, the person that's actually going to like make some strides. Yeah, maybe not like your campaign video said. It's like they're not going to fucking let us in, but to make the noise, to actually make the effort and actually, like, I don't know, burn the shit down as we go, fine. But the LP has a history of not voting for that person or nominating that person, but instead nominating somebody that is completely non-electable, completely uninteresting, I guess. Aside from Spike as the VP candidate, who's really been the biggest interesting thing to come out of a Libertarian Party nomination since, I don't know, Ron Paul.
Yeah, we haven't had a good, and I say this tongue in cheek, but I mean it too. We haven't had a good, decent, like unapologetic, brave libertarian presidential candidate since Michael Badnarik in 2004, and that's saying a lot, because we had Gary Johnson twice in 12 and 16. Of course, Sleepy Joe Jorgensen last term. 2008, it was what is his name? The gold guy that sells gold or buys gold in Vegas. I can't remember his name, but I
can't think of it either.
He was not great. He got 1% of the vote, if that. And that's the problem, man. Is like, look here. This is what I keep telling everybody. And it's so important that we follow this. Like, and I don't know how to beat it in anybody's head, but we're not going to get the Republican and Democrat sycophants. Bob Barr. Yep. Thomas Kastner's right. It was Bob Barr. I always forget Bob's name. I met Bob. He's a nice guy, but he wasn't a good presidential candidate. Arguably worse than Gary Johnson as far as messaging and stuff. But anyway, so we're not going to get these sycophants from the Republicans and Democrats. You're insane if you think that we're going to get the sycophants from the Republicans and Democrats, man. Like, those people are hard line. They are not taking no for an answer. They do not care what facts you present. They are voting for Trump. They are voting for Biden, period. That's it. They don't care what you bring. I could go in there and tell them I'm God, show them miracles, and they still wouldn't vote for me, dude. Okay? Like, literally, I could do miracles, and they still would not vote for me. That's the truth.
100% true. It's 100% true. Nobody's going to change the mind, and all these freaking back and forth bullshit banter, all the millions, billions that are spent on campaign ads. It's like, who are you campaigning to? Because nobody's changing their mind towards or away
that's
from.
Not necessarily true. And this is what I'm going to say. Okay. They're campaigning to the same people that I'm campaigning to, which are the 49% of the population that were so fed up in 2020 that they didn't vote for a presidential candidate. The almost 60% in 2016 that didn't vote for a presidential candidate. So what I'm saying is, first of all, any libertarian candidate that's telling you today, like Mike Termott likes to say, we're going to win this thing, is insane. Not just insane. They're lying to you. They're lying to your face. And it makes people uncomfortable. It makes this conversation, having this conversation with somebody, uncomfortable. Not for me, but for them. Right. The voter, me telling you I'm going to win this election is insane for me to tell people, because they're like, no, you're not. They know you're not going to win this election. They know you're not even going to get close. Why would you tell them that you're going to win an election that you know you have no chance of winning? But, and this is the important thing, man, we do have the opportunity to get 5%. Right. 5%. No libertarian candidate since 1970 has ever gotten 5%. And let me tell you, 5% changes the political landscape in the United States of America forever. Forever. It will never, ever be the same, because here's the problem with the sycophants who do vote all the time. What they're worried about with the Libertarian Party is they have no national major party status. They have nothing to back up. They've never been in these positions before, but now you're a major national party who gets all the same things the Republicans and Democrats do in these elections, which includes getting into the debates.
Right.
Now they have to watch me on the TV wreck these people. Are you kidding me? And we can get into the debates now too, if America does us a solid and gives us 15% in the polls, right? Which, by the way, I've promised that if America does me a solid and helps me poll at 15 in any of the major big party polls, I promise you, I will bring a crack pipe on stage and give it to Joe Biden on stage. I'm not kidding. I will do that.
Oh my gosh.
So here's the thing. We need 5%. I'm shooting for 10. I want 10%. That's a totally attainable goal that I could tell people who are just disaffected and don't want to vote for the loonies. Hey, we need 10%. I would like to have 10%. 5% gets us national major party status. Now, that's what you want to hear a libertarian candidate talking about, because now I'm telling you the truth. And I'm telling you the absolute truth. Here's my platform. This is what I'm going to do if you guys are crazy enough to put me in the White House. This is what I'm about. Yes, I want to turn the ATF buildings into dog parks. Absolutely, 100%. Yes, I want to take leftover ATF gear, auction it off to pay reparations to everybody who's had to buy an unconstitutional NFA tax stamp. Okay. Yes. If you guys are crazy enough to put me in the White House, we're going to do that. We're going to end Title 4D of the Social Security Act that is incentivized breaking up families. We're going to end the Federal Reserve. We're going to bring all our troops home. We're going to shut down military bases around the world and stop poking fingers in everybody's chest. Yes, we're going to do that stuff if you guys are crazy enough to put me in the White House. But there's another goal. 5% of the major vote, of the party vote, and we are a national major party. What that does, it doesn't just give us national major party status. That's great. That's a huge benefit. You know, if they're going to give federal money to the Republicans and Democrats, now they have to offer it to us. If they're going to put us in debates, now they have to offer it to us. Great, all good stuff. Now there's another option up there to rail these people, because I'm telling you, if they put me in the debates with Joe Biden and Trump, these guys are done, right? But what it also does is your favorite candidate, and this is what I tell Republicans and Democrat voters, your favorite candidate feels so comfortable in their position. Sorry, I had COVID a while back, and I'm still getting the shit on my lungs. And so now your favorite party politicians are going to see the sharks in the water, right? There's this young 40-year-old guy that just got 10% of the vote in the presidential election that is a blue-collar, working-class guy with a family, and now he's coming for our jobs. So now what we have to do is we have to govern like we campaign, right? And that's so important to hold your representatives accountable. And all you have to do is give the third party candidate 5% of the vote. It changes everything forever. Why not do that? This is an easy goal. This is an easy goal. Gary Johnson got 3.3% in 2016. Gary Johnson. Sleepy, boring, stoned out of his mind Gary Johnson, who looked like Towley from South Park, okay? Got 3.3%. You think I can't go out there and fire these people up, this young, like, generation of people that are fired up and hate the government? You think I can't fire them up to go down to the ballot box for 5 minutes and drop a Joshua Smith vote in there? Hell yeah, I can. And we're gonna do it. And we're gonna make those politicians scared for their jobs. And it's going to be the first time they've ever been truly scared for their jobs, and things are going to change.
And they might actually have to do the fucking job. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, they're going to have to, or America's going to know there's another option finally, because we are now a national major party. We don't have to fight for ballot access. We don't have to spend millions of dollars fighting for ballot access in 10 different states every 4 years. You know what I mean? Like we're done. All of our candidates can put an L next to their name on the ballot. Maybe we even get some straight party voters eventually. You know what I mean? Like it's on, and I'm going to do that. I'm going to be the guy that does that. If they nominate me in May of next year, I mean that. I guaranteed I'm going to be that guy. Yeah.
Now, as far as back to the LP for just a second, as far as, like I was saying, their history of nominating non-electable candidates, when you come out and publicly say, because I mean, what candidate comes out and says, no, we're probably not going to fucking win. There's no way in hell we're going to win. Do you see elements of the Libertarian Party using that against you when it comes to nomination time? It's like, why should we nominate this guy he doesn't even expect to win, when they know exactly what you're saying is absolutely true? They know it, but do they use something like that against you?
The only people that are going to use that against me are the same people that are going to use anything they possibly can against me not to vote for me. That's their prerogative. They're allowed to do that, but they know in their heart of hearts that I'm right about both of those things, all of those things that I just said. They know that I'm right. And you know what? The people at large are the people who we're really worried about. Look, I get it. 1,200 people pick our nominee. Okay. But those 1,200 people need to walk into that convention realizing that the person they need to pick is the one that is going to get them the most outside of the party votes. Period. That's the person you need to pick, not the person that you like the best, not the person that, you know what I mean? Like, sure, make sure they have policies that you can agree with. I get that. But it's not a popularity contest for you. It's not like, who's my best friend up there? It's like, dude, who's going to go out there and do the work and fight and scratch tooth and nail to try and get into the debates, first of all, and also to make sure that we have ballot access. Because that's the other thing. The presidential candidate is going to have to go out and fight for ballot access in several states this year, because the LNC doesn't have the funds to do it. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that's where I'm at. Like, you got to understand, I'm not going to go out there and lie to people because they don't want to vote for you when you lie to them, dude. They don't. And that's those 49% of the people that didn't vote for a presidential candidate last election. They're not voting because they're tired of being lied to.
Yeah.
You know, and we could change that.
Yeah. So I know you don't have a ton of time, so I want to dig a little bit into some of your I guess your stances and on certain topics, on the issues, I guess you call them, because thehill.com says these are topics to watch for in presidential debates. So I want to hear kind of your take on some of these issues, and you've kind of hit on some of them here and there, but like number one, they said, is the economy and taxes. Like Biden thinks his economy is fucking flourishing.
Yeah,
he says
he's sundowning, bro. He's literally very clearly got dementia.
And then Trump said the same thing at the end of his, even though we are in COVID lockdowns.
Right.
But so talk to me about, I mean, banks are nearly collapsing this year. I mean, that happened like twice. Many banks did collapse. And the two big to fail banks are on the verge of collapsing. Talk to me about the economy and taxes, and like, what is your stance? Like, where would you go if you were elected?
Sure. So the economy is in shambles, and anybody who's not in the highest class in this country knows that. We all feel it, especially the middle class. And I talk about this in several aspects of my platform: the foreign welfare, the parasite platform. I also talk about it in my tax plan. I also talk about it in maybe my foreign intervention plan a little bit as well. And then, of course, I have a corporate welfare plank as well, because, you know, I don't think libertarians talk about corporate welfare enough. And this is something that does harm us, you know, when we're taking – and I want to talk about the especially the foreign parasite dependence when it comes to, you know, foreign welfare. You know, we send over $50 billion to over 200 countries every year.
Yeah.
Every single year. Now, preface that with 12% of Americans in the United States are having a hard time putting food on the table. Okay. The middle class is not doing much better. To some of these people, $20 a week is a life changer.
Yeah.
And we're sending money to Israel and Pakistan for gender studies. And like, why? What is the, you know, well, some people will be like, oh, well, it's, you know, we're trying to be their friend. No, this is American taxpayer money. This is money that is being extracted from your labor, stolen without your consent, and sent to other countries. How does that make sense to anybody at all? So I talked about, I want to end the income tax right away. I think that is a life changer for everybody in America.
Oh, absolutely.
You get rid of the income tax.
The IRS?
So we will. I would eventually abolish the IRS as well, but that's not something. So we talked about this quite a bit, and Vivek has been talking about this too. The president doesn't actually have the power to get rid of some of these bureaucracies, right? But he does have the power to create mass layoffs. In fact, thousands and thousands and thousands of people. So that's kind of my plan for some of these bureaucracies, like the ATF especially. You guys are all going to go home. We're going to sell off your gear and then bulldoze the building, and we're going to turn them into dog parks. I mean that.
We need
but I want to get rid of the income tax, abolish the income tax. I think the president can do that. Of course, Congress can take me to task, and we can fight it in the court. But I want to get rid of that's the, you know, payroll taxes, capital gains tax, and estate tax. That's what the income taxes are, right? And nowhere in America should people be having to pay for stuff that they don't use. And so I would like to listen, if the federal government is going to exist, they need to exist on a series of user fees and crowdfunding. Okay. There's like, if you're an American who doesn't need anything from the government, you shouldn't be paying for anything from the government, period. And so, you know, I look at it this way. once we close the bases, we start bringing people home, right? We start getting them here in America, getting them reintegrated with their families, maybe a more aggressive mental health care for some of the people that have really been messed up by this stuff. What we can do is we can start asking people like, hey, if you'd like to have a robust national defense military, we would really appreciate it if you guys would throw $10 a month at us, because it's all it's going to take if we're all home. You know what I mean? $10 a month. And I guarantee you that there's a large portion of patriotic Americans who are going to be like, hell yeah, I'll pay $10 a month to keep my national security. Hell yeah. I'm sure of it. And then user fees. People use things from the federal government. And I don't mean fines for doing things that are outside of government's rules. I mean user fees. If there's something that you're using from the federal government, like if we continue to hold on to some of the national parks for a while we sundown that stuff and people pay $5 to spend all day at the national park, that's fine. It's a user fee, right? It's not it's not something where we're like, hey, you're going to give us your money or you're going to go to jail. It's like a user fee. So user fees, crowdfund, get rid of the income tax entirely, burn the federal bill. I mean, the federal, the Fed, right? Done with the Federal Reserve. And I'm sure there's, and I'm working with some other great economists that are working on these plans. But there is a sundowning period for the Federal Reserve, so we don't just kill everybody, I mean,
that's probably fair.
There's a lot of really great plans for getting rid of the Federal Reserve. We could go back to precious metals. We could get ourselves off the OPEC dollar and start working towards a nuclear dollar, a kilowatt dollar. There's all kinds of different things we can do. But the Fed has created so many of the problems that we see today, including the constant warfare. We're basically printing money out of thin air to fund these never-ending wars. They're setting these crazy, insane interest rates that are killing the middle class. They just continue to do all these things that make everybody's life harder, and there's no point for them to exist. They're an unelected bureaucratic board that sets monetary policy for Americans all over the country. Like, that's insane. It was never meant to exist for like that. And it was really just a group of rich, elite, powerful people that were like, we're going to control all the money in the United States. And it's been like that ever since 1913. So that's got to go. And I think that's, the root cause of almost all of our problems. Now, it's really hard to talk about the Federal Reserve with normal people. I don't know if you know that.
Absolutely.
But most people are like, who gives a shit what you have to say about the Federal Reserve? What's the Federal Reserve? That's why I like to try to talk about the income tax and the warfare state and how this is creating these problems. And then once they're through that, and I'm like, oh, and by the way, the Federal Reserve is the reason that this is all happening. Right. It gives them kind of a good segue. But so yeah, the economy is doing absolutely terrible. Absolutely, everybody is feeling the pressure. I don't care, if you make $100,000 a year or less in America right now, you're feeling the pressure. I know it. I'm a father of 7 who is financially responsible for 9 people, including myself. It's hard. It's a hard squeeze right now, and I get it. And the only way it's gonna get better is if we start pushing back on the Uniparty to make them understand that we're not going to take it anymore.
Yeah, I'd seen a post the other day. It said something like, this person had gone back to their shopping cart, like Amazon or Walmart or something, and checked the price of everything that they had paid at that time, then went and added all that shit to their cart today. And it was like, I think it had gone up like 115% since 2020, 2019, 2020. I'm like, 119%. What's all this talk about the economy just flourishing? And I don't know about you, but my job hasn't increased. My income hasn't gone up 119% to subsidize that. So where's all this freaking talk about the economy just being
Joe Biden's economy got better.
Oh, Joe Biden. Okay, gotcha.
Bidenomics, dude. Bidenomics. No, every president says the economy is doing great under them. I don't know if you know this, but every single president in history has at one point said the economy is doing much better under us. They don't care. They don't give a shit.
No, because like you were saying, the people at the top, they don't feel the pressure of it. They're the only ones that think this economy is doing great because they're making all the fucking money out of it.
Right. Well, that's why I think I'm going to be good at this. That's why I think that this campaign is going to be good, because I'm a blue collar, working class, middle class guy, man. Like I felt the squeeze with everybody. I'm going in to fight for us, man. This ain't for just me. You know what I mean? This is for everybody that's getting screwed over by the government daily. Like this is for all of us. This campaign is a movement. It's not a help me get rich quick scheme. It is this is a movement, and I'm leading this movement to DC to let them know that there's a lot of people that are fed up and we're done.
Right.
And that's what this is about. That's what the Vote for Vengeance is about. You know, it's the COVID stuff, it's the never-ending wars, it's the economy, the Federal Reserve, Title 4D, splitting up the nuclear family, the education system, all the shit that's hurting us every day. I'm leading the charge. I'm leading the movement to DC to tell them that we're done. And that's what this campaign is. It is a vote for vengeance, sir.
I like it. I love it.
Yep.
I guess one more of the issues, and you can touch on it because you touched on foreign policy. You said bring all of them home.
Yeah, we're bringing them all home. Yep.
Stop the fucking never-ending wars.
Yep.
Talk kind of about the national budget. That kind of goes hand in hand with the economy. What about the energy environment, like global warming? That is a hot topic these days.
Yeah, I'm not. So I you know, it may depress some people, but I'm just not a climate alarmist. Like I know that climate changes, you know, through history, and this isn't any different than those times. But I will say this, and this is something that the lefties cannot argue with me about. Okay, the federal government gives grants and contracts to companies like General Electric, right, like GE. And they're the only people that are allowed to go out and make these green technologies for the government, right? As opposed to us opening the market and letting people compete, you know? And so, you know, I obviously under me, we would have a much more consumer driven market, which I think is the most important thing that we can do economically as a nation, is to start realizing that the market is driven by consumers, which some people call it a free market, and I've called it the free market for many years. But I've realized that it's much easier to talk to somebody who gets shut down as soon as you say free market by saying consumer-driven market. It's just kind of a play on words, but it's the same thing. You know, if you're so worried about the climate and energy, right, then you continuing to put your faith in governments that have locked down the energy creation is not helping at all.
Yeah.
At all. They're giving these big multi-billion-dollar contracts to companies like GE. GE does not have to compete to make a superior product, a cheaper product. They don't have to treat their employees better. Now, what you do when you open it up to a consumer-driven market, you go out and you say, hey, here's what we're doing. All you small businesses, whoever comes up with the best green tech wins. That's it. Right. Whoever's got the best green tech at the cheapest prices and is the best to their employees and has the best reviews wins. Now, if we're going to institute a national grid of some sort, you know, which in my opinion should be nuclear, right? I think that we should have, and I've talked with some another wonderful economist who knows a lot about nuclear, and his name's Morgan. We've been working in my policy team. You can take 40 Gen 3 reactors and power the entire country, and they're small, they're super safe. Yes, they already have a way to burn the waste, so it's not hazardous to everybody. And the cool thing about this, and we talked a little bit about this, getting off the OPEC dollar and going to what he calls the kilowatt dollar. And I'm getting this down to a science better now. But what it does, first of all, our energy is going to become pennies on the dollar. The price of energy is going to be pennies on the dollar. But now we're exporting energy to other countries through battery. So, you know, we set up a contract with another country. Hey, we'll put in these battery banks for you. Every so often we'll bring the batteries, you know, we'll store our nuclear power. You'll run off this nuclear power. And now our dollar is backed by the kilowatt dollar. And it goes a lot deeper than this. So we could spend like 3 or 4 hours probably talking about this. And I'd love to have Morgan with me to talk about it. But so now we're off the OPEC dollar, which is ridiculous anyways. I mean, we all know that the petrodollar is crap. And fading fast, very fast. Now we're exporting the energy to other countries, right? Which is totally within libertarian sphere, even if it's the private market doing it or the government. I mean, as long as it's helping the people, whatever, you know. And we're running our country for pennies on the dollar, our very safe, clean energy from nuclear power. And now we got companies that are competing for better green tech, and whoever gets the best one wins. I mean, that's what the competition is all about, right? It's not about who government, you know, when the government's picking and choosing the kings, right? They're playing kingmaker. Nobody wins.
Right. No. And those companies usually go bankrupt.
And when they do, we bail them out with American taxpayer money.
Well, that and the people that like negotiate those contracts with them or approve those contracts, end up like turning around the revolving door and going back and being like getting a high paying CEO job at those same fucking companies,
Right.
that or some lobbying job for that company. So I mean, the
It's
whole
revolving door.
aspect of it, if you got rid of that whole shit, that would fix a lot of it too. Just like, hey, if you were part of the policy that wrote this contract for X corporation, you are not allowed to go be the CEO or
Right.
make $1 billion out of that corporation in 4 years from now, because I mean that's obvious. That's a clear conflict of interest.
Right.
Here's
And
here's something that the lefties will like a lot. The lefties who watch my campaign, because there's a lot of stuff they're not going to like, especially my stuff on trans children and probably designating the SPLC and ADL as a hate groups. They're probably not going to like that very much either. But they will like this. I have this corporate welfare plank in there that basically says these big giant corporations that are getting bailed out constantly by taxpayer money are constantly telling us that we need to pick ourselves up by the bootstraps, and it's time for them to understand what that means by no more bailouts.
Yes.
Period.
Absolutely.
No more. Zero more. No more bailouts at all.
Like, yeah, it's going to hurt our economy if just one of those mega corporations fails. It's going to hurt, but that, I mean, those are necessary pains
Right.
Yep.
to make this economy, turn it back into like a natural economy, like the supply and demand economy versus artificially inflated economy that's propped up by a government that bails this shit out and keeps the prices at X amount of dollars versus, hey, let's just let losers lose and let the winners win, and it will suck for a little bit. But
what is the interest rate set to right now? I haven't looked that up.
I haven't looked at it.
I think it's like 7.6.
7.6 or something, right?
Yeah.
And they're telling us that it's gonna hurt for a while, right? It's gonna hurt for a while. 7.6 is gonna hurt people for a while. People are losing their homes. People can hardly afford to eat, right? But on the same side of their mouth, they'll tell you that one of these mega corporations failing is going to hurt the economy so bad that it'll never come back. That's bullshit. That's bullshit. Absolute bullshit. The interest rates are hurting people now more than they ever have, and it's not bringing inflation down like they told us it would. They said it's a necessary evil to bring down inflation. No, it's not, and it's not working. But I'll tell you that letting this mega corporation, while there may be some blood for a while, letting them fail in the long run is going to help way more Americans than raising the interest rate on them from the unelected bureaucratic board that none of us want.
Right.
So I don't
no,
know.
absolutely. My final question on the issues is, most important question is, what does Josh Smith do about Maui on fire? Because Joe Biden is handling that so well with his jokes about how hot the ground is there.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, my gut instinct is that this was done purposely.
I agree. We had a whole episode about it. So
yeah, and people will probably be like, "Oh, you're a crazy conspiracy theorist," and my answer to that is yes, I absolutely am. But I'll tell you what: at some point, when your conspiracy theories continue to come true, you don't care what you call me anymore. You know, you know, the handling of this, the way they were blocking residents from getting out, the way the fire patterns burned, the way that, you know, just months prior, some of these big places like BlackRock and stuff were like trying to get in there and buy these properties. You know, the fact that the mayor of the city was just a freaking keynote speaker at event 230 or whatever. He was literally the keynote speaker there. The mayor.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
It's like it's very clear to me, and it's so crazy because some of these things are so in your face, because they know how many stupid people will just call you a conspiracy theorist for bringing it up, because we've let ourselves become so consumed with like fake media that we don't care anymore, and that sucks for people that are going through this kind of stuff. And you know, Oprah and Hillary and all these people were definitely watching that fire going, yep, I'm gonna get some prime oceanfront realty, you know? Absolutely.
I mean, you had corporations calling these people as they're digging for their dead loved ones, saying, hey, you want to sell this to us, pennies on the dollar? It's like, clearly there, if it wasn't intentional, there was clearly the whole Obama mantra of never let a good crisis go to waste. Because
I think as a president, we had, you know, if like I said, if you guys were crazy enough to put me in the White House, and I'm bringing all my kids with me, And listen, I am also under no illusion that should I make it into the White House, the CIA is going to let me exist for much longer.
Right.
But I won't be taking any strolls down any streets in Dallas with a convertible car
no shit.
anytime soon after that. But I will say that we have the right as a president to force an investigation on things. You're the commander in chief and you have that access and you have that right, and you can hand down orders to all kinds of people that says, hey, you need to go and investigate this, and we're going to release what's actually happened to the public, and we're going to if it's found that the government had something to do with that, we're going to take care of that, period. Because it's disgusting what happened there. It's very clear that even if it wasn't purposeful, it was handled in such a way that it harmed a lot of people.
Absolutely.
And as president, I would make sure that they got some retribution for that. They would have to, and so I definitely wouldn't be falling asleep at their talks in Maui. That's for sure. I'd definitely be there standing with the people of Maui and letting them know that this federal government is a federal government that cares now. And should a federal government exist, the most important function of that federal government is protection of rights. I feel like there's been some rights violated there. So
now you did have the governor of Hawaii. He did come out and promise them that their costs weren't going to go up because the government was going to buy up the property and pretty much let them live there cheaply.
Right. Sure.
So we got that promising thing there going on.
Yeah, I'm sure that's what's going to happen. That's exactly what's going to happen. I just want everybody that believes that's what's going to happen. I want you to take this down right now and cut this, save it. And when you find out that that's not what happened, I want to make sure that I can come back and tell you that I told you so.
Yeah, no shit. I got a comment from Thomas says, as a president, do you promise to stay strapped?
I stay strapped now, buddy, all the time.
So you're going to continue that tradition. I'm
gonna my gun platform, should you guys put me in there, of course, is abolish the ATF, ban the NICS, right? The background checks, right? Because all it does is let these thugs in Chicago go out and illegally buy switches for their 50-round mags on their Glocks, and I can't get it. You know what I mean? Right. I can't get it legally. And so that's all it does. And then I want to get rid of the 1993 school gun ban so that administrators and people can protect our children, our most important kids, our most important citizens. Of course, I want to do away with the NFA entirely. Like I said, when we ban the ATF, we'll sell off property. We'll auction off property to great law-abiding Americans, and we will turn around and use that money to pay reparations to everybody who's had to unconstitutionally buy an NFA tax stamp for a piece of property that the government had no say in. And what else is in there? I want to issue a national reciprocity / constitutional carry. And I think that we can get that done with an executive order, I believe. So,
I mean, look at all the shit that Joe Biden's trying to do against, like, owning guns as freaking executive orders. I mean, that should already be a thing. Like, if you can legally carry in this state, why the fuck can't you? Why can't I go across the river to Illinois and carry a gun? When I went through I
had this conversation the other day in Illinois, actually, when I was there.
You had it with me, I think.
Maybe you and several other people. I said, one time we drove from Iowa. I live in Iowa. We drove from Iowa to Indiana for the spring game for Notre Dame, because my nephew-in-law is a tight end on Notre Dame. 6'8", 260-pound monster, by the way, at 19 years old. Yeah, absolute monster.
He'll be your bodyguard. He'll be your Secret Service.
Yeah, and he's the nicest kid. Like, seriously, one of the very nicest, greatest, best, well-behaved, well-mannered kids I've ever met in my entire life. Eli Raridan is his name. He's a great kid. Watch for him this year. He's number 19 on
all right, definitely.
But we drove. I stay strapped. I keep a gun on me, on my hip, or really close to me all times. It's funny because I'm in Iowa, which is constitutional carry state. I don't have to tell the government that I'm carrying a gun. I don't have to. We don't register in Iowa. Like, we don't even have to register here in Iowa. And so I carry my gun and we're driving, and then we're in Illinois and I'm committing a felony. And then we're back in Indiana and I'm no longer committing a felony. And it's just the most bizarre shit. Like, can you guys quit embarrassing us for like 5 minutes in the Midwest?
Right. It's ridiculous.
But I do want to say this. I think this is a really important part of my platform that sometimes gets looked over, and this is like a cornerstone for me because it addresses so many other issues as well. But I'm not going to capitulate on the right of Americans to own and possess firearms. I'm not going to capitulate on that whatsoever. And people are like, well, what about violent felons? And I'm like, have they served their time? Is there like maybe we can come up with a timeline of no other crimes committed, but if they've paid their penance, they should have the same right as everybody else to protect themselves and their family and their homes. You know what I mean? But the big question is always like mass shootings, right? It's always it always comes back to these mass shootings, which is such a small percentage of gun deaths every year, right? It's like one of the smallest percentage. In fact, suicide's the highest percentage, and they always lump that in with all the other gun deaths to try and bolster the numbers.
Right.
But so here's the thing. I want to abolish Title 4D of the Social Security Act. Okay. Now, this is something that I have never in my life heard a president talk about before, but it's something that the president has absolutely every right to take away, as Gerald Ford did when he signed it into law in 1975. Okay. Title 4D of the Social Security Act states that for every $2 a state spends on child support programs, the federal government gives them $3 in return.
What?
Yes. And no presidential candidate has ever talked about this. And since that inception of that act of the Social Security Act, that title of the Social Security Act in 1975, when it was signed into law by Gerald Ford, we have seen fatherless homes increase over fourfold. One in four children lives in a fatherless home. Okay. We have seen violent crime increase tenfold.
Right.
Since 1975. Drug use has increased tenfold since 1975. Homeless and runaway youth has increased tenfold since 1975. And let me give you some of these statistics, because this is where it really gets crazy. Okay. 72% of all incarcerated youth violent offenders in the United States come from a fatherless home.
Jeez.
82% of all homeless and runaway youth come from a fatherless home. Now, here's what's going to get really crazy. 92% of mass shooters come from a fatherless home.
Holy shit.
92%. Those numbers are so high that there is no way at all that you can just say that they don't correlate. I'm sorry. And since 1975, we've watched them increase. And also I think there's an 80-something% of high school dropouts from fatherless homes. Now you're going to try and convince me. That this is a 1 in 4 fathers problem. It's like 1 in 4 fathers are bad. No.
Right.
Never. I know fathers. I am a father, and I've been dragged through the criminal family law court already, and I know how they operate, and I'm not a bad dad. And I know that a lot of my friends that are men, and a couple women too, it does happen to women, but it's like 92.3% of the time this happens to the men. You walk into court, and they have to treat one of you like a visitor and one of you as the custodian, right? That way they can force money from one of you and get their reimbursement to pay their judges, because that's what a lot of that money pays, judges and people who work in the courts.
Right.
Okay? They get that $3 kickback for every $2 spent. And they've incentivized separating families and not equal co-parenting and not peaceful co-parenting. They've completely taken that whole situation away from children. Okay.
Yes. Right. Yes.
And so when these, moms demand action type come at me and start going, hey, you want people to die by guns. And I go, no, I want people to stop dying by guns. And I want you guys, you moms who continue to drag dads through the family law system and destroy the family unit. And and I'm not saying all of them, because there's there's probably a lot of bad dads that are violent or whatever and don't need to be around kids. I get that. But the majority are good dads that just want to be a parent to their child. And you're taking that away from your child by using the court system, who's getting a kickback, and we're creating the most violent generation in the history of the United States.
Absolutely.
So it's not my fault. It's your fault.
Right.
And I'm never going to capitulate to the moms demand action people. I want them to understand that taking the peaceful co-parenting and equal parenting time away from your child is hurting your child far more than them learning how to shoot a gun ever will. Ever.
Yeah. Right.
So real quick, like I've kind of gone back and forth with people about this, but explain how the social security system and that whole situation and like for dummies, how does that incentivize like single parent homes and like the separation of families and
Well,
shit?
so it's just the Title 4D Act. I mean, there's so much more that we can chip away at in Social Security, and really, the Social Security Act is like a giant Ponzi scheme. We're basically paying the older generations to retire, and there's no money left in that fund every year. We're constantly filling it up, and the government's spending it on other things too, not just retirement for the old folks. And so there's got to be a better way there too. Trust me, it can't be like this anymore. But I will say,
have their kitty though to pull from.
Right, of course. But I'll say this: Title 4D, which was added in 1975 by President Shitty Gerald Ford, it incentivizes the state to get involved in your family's life, because they get, like I said, for every $2 they spend on a child support program, and I mean the program, everything, enforcement, garnishments, court dates, every $2 they spend as a state, they get $3 back. And that
so they're more likely to push like
they have
child
to
support situation versus, hey, can we just reconcile this shit?
Listen, if you ever meet my wife, for instance, has a kid with another man, and I was just talking to my boss at work about this today, and he took in his two nephews, right? He took in two nephews that were his sisters, and she was off doing her thing, and he took them in, and the state called him and said, hey, we need you to fill out these child support papers. And he said, no, I don't need to go after her for child support. We can take care of it just fine. I have plenty of money. It's no need. They're like, by law, you have to fill out these papers for child support so that we can collect child support, because every $2 that they collect, they get $3 back from the federal government. So it's incentivized separation of family. It's incentivized the court. The craziest thing is it's incentivized the court to treat one of the parents like a visitor in their child's life, and no parent is a visitor in their child's life. That's just not how this works. Both parents are very, very equally responsible and equally important to the development of a child. And the court has taken that away because of incentives of money. So we need to cut that off, because then the court's not going to be like, well, we can't spend all this money on these programs anymore. You guys are going to have to start figuring out how to peacefully co-parent.
Right.
You know what I mean? And if you can't stay together for the kid, then you need to start peacefully co-parenting. You should see I don't want to pull the stat out of my butt, but 1975 to now, the increase in divorces are insane.
Through the roof.
Insane.
That, and if you think about like welfare and stuff like that, I don't think that helps, because you hear about, especially like the 90s and stuff, how people like it was more beneficial for couples to just split their separate ways and receive those welfare benefits rather than stay together. I mean, lots of inner city black homes. That's a big reason why keep
this in mind too. When a woman separates from a man, and the man is treated like the visitor and has to pay X amount of child support,
right?
When the woman goes on welfare and food stamps, they add that in as a collection.
Okay.
So if the state's paying that, they're saying they're spending that on child support programs. So for every $2 they're spending on the welfare and the food stamps, the federal government is giving them $3 back as well. It's all considered part of the same program. So that's why if you separate with your wife and she goes on welfare, they're gonna get their money from you, dude. They're coming to get that money from you, no matter what. Even if she doesn't sign anything, she was on public assistance. You're supposed to be taking care of her. You'll be paying every dollar of public assistance that she gets back. So you're paying that money to the government, right, to the state, while the federal government's also giving them $3 for every $2 that you've spent now, right? So they're getting all the money. They're getting all of it. It's all going to them. And it's an incentive to destroy the nuclear family. It's a really terrible program, and I don't know why it wasn't ever instituted. And I'll tell you this: what's really crazy, I've never heard another presidential candidate talk about this. When a president has all the power to do away with this, until 6 weeks ago, I put out this platform, and then I had never even heard Vivek talk about this. And then Vivek got up on the Republican national debate stage and started talking about it straight from my platform, dude. It was crazy. And he did just get interviewed by Clint. I know he runs in some of the same circles. Some other podcasters I know that have had me on. He's been on their show. I'm sure that he saw that, because I was like tweeting at him and stuff. I'm sure he saw it, and he brought it out of his butt, out of the middle of the debate randomly, and talked about how it's destroying the nuclear family. We're incentivizing the states to ruin the nuclear family. And I was like, I'm not mad. I would have liked a tribute to it, but I'm not mad because if we can force that into the national conversation, that's great. That's great.
I mean, well, wasn't that like one of the mission statements of Black Lives Matter when we were doing our show on them? That was to like break down the nuclear family.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah, it was like tear down the nuclear family. That was like number 3 on their list of things. So I mean, and that we could go way off topic on that too, and how that was just a big fucking hoax. Yeah. You're probably ready to get out of here. You said you had at most an hour.
I do got to put like 7 kids to bed. So
yes. So I don't want to keep you too long from them. So I'm going to, every time we start a new sentence, it's just going to open up another 20 minutes and that's just going to intrigue us more for 20 more minutes. So I'm going to let you get out of here. I do want you to give us your closing statement for this, as you were on a debate stage, just like 2 sentence or 3 sentence, whatever your closing pitch for Josh Smith for president.
Sure. And I think I mainly gave it in the middle already, but it's look, I'm a blue collar working class American who's been through the plight of so many Americans, millions and millions of Americans. I've been through the family law system. I've been through layoffs. I've been through lost homes. I've done all this stuff. And a lot of it has to do with the federal government. So I just want people to understand that when I'm coming and I'm attacking these things in the government and I'm telling you that this is what's hurting us, it's because I've been there. And this is a campaign for us. This isn't a campaign for me. This is not about me. This is about the American people. This is about the middle class and lower class people that have been stepped over repeatedly by the corporate elite, by the corporate news media, by the federal government to get to where they are in our wake. This is about vengeance. This is about us getting our due. This is about us going in and telling them we're not going to take this crap anymore. And if you continue to do it, we're going to replace you with people that are not going to do this to us anymore. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so that's what I'm doing. I'm taking this movement of people on this campaign with me and keeping all their stories close to me. Every story I've heard over the last 6 years of the thousands of people that I've met across all portions of America. And I'm taking it to DC, and we're going to tell them that we're not taking this anymore. Enough is enough.
I love it. I love it. Yes. What was the slogan again?
A vote for me is a vote for vengeance.
There you go. So you're coming up on a pretty big name show here pretty soon. You just said.
I'll be on it in less than 48 hours, my friend.
Oh, perfect. So everybody check out Josh on the Tim Pool show. That's Wednesday, is that right?
Wednesday, yeah. I think I want to say it's 7 to 9 Central Time. And then there's an after show for an hour or 2, so it's like 3 hours of show time.
Perfect. Make sure you check out Josh on that. Make sure you share all his stuff all over the place. I'm going to post all his links and stuff in the show notes so you guys can share it around. Links to the video. Share that campaign video. I know there's more to come. I am sure more campaign videos.
Your brother and I are working on one right now.
Perfect.
That's going to go ham on the COVID regime real hard. And so
that's
going to be a fun one.
We didn't even get into the COVID regime.
There's too much to get into.
There definitely is. So thanks again, Josh, for coming on the show.
Appreciate it, Josh.
It was definitely an interesting topic. It's a lot of shit, like you were saying, that no other candidates even talking about or is even willing to talk about. And I mean, it's definitely a breath of fresh air. I was completely over this campaign before it even started.
Oh yeah.
I was just like, I don't even care who the LP throws out. I'm just so fucking sick of the campaign and everything. Right. And 2020 is barely behind us, it seems like, and now we're already at 2024. And then I ran into Josh at in a circle pit, and I was like, okay, this guy's gonna come on my show. I had seen that you're running for president, but I was just like, yeah, sure. And then I ran into you in a circle pit, and you gave me your pitch right there in a circle pit, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna vote this year. So y'all should vote too. Make sure you vote for Josh, because a vote for Josh is a vote for vengeance, and that's all that matters.
Yeah, vengeance needs to be had.
Josh,
I'm not going to sing Eminem. I'm gonna give you my pitch in a circle pit. And I actually got up on stage with your brother and sang there.
You did.
Well.
You did. It was great, and,
And
it's
so
on
I'm sure
video.
some clips of that will come out. It probably wasn't great, but I did,
Oh,
I did
it
do it.
was fantastic. Again, no presidential candidate that I've ever met has jumped up on stage with my brother and sang a song. So it's great. We're gonna let you get back to your 46 kids and preparing for the 16-bedroom mansion that you got to look forward to. So, Josh, thanks again for coming on our show.
Thanks.
Hey, thank you guys so much, man. I appreciate you.
Yep. Have a good night. That was Josh Smith, your future president. Hopefully, again, he is the host of the Break the Cycle podcast. Go check out everything that Josh does. Again, I'm going to post all the stuff that he does in the show notes. Otherwise, just Google Josh Smith.
Yeah, check out his website. You know, he's got a really good list of where he stands on the different issues in his platforms,
Sure.
and it's all stuff that completely makes sense to me, and I agreed with all of them.
I did too, and he's just a badass dude.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you don't
Well,
get any
in the
badass
pit,
dudes,
right?
In a circle pit.
You can
yeah.
see Joe Biden in the pit. No,
Joe Biden would collapse before he even got there. We are going to take a break. We're going to come back. We got a little bit of time left. Do we want to talk about Donald Trump, or do we just want to wrap it up?
You know, let's end on a high note.
Let's
and
just
let's
wrap it
up.
up.
No one wants to hear about Donald Trump.
We were going to take a break and come back and talk about Donald Trump's arrest, but you know, I don't fucking want to do it. I didn't want to do it to begin with, but then Josh was like, I only got an hour. I'm like, oh, we could fill it in with Trump stuff. But you know, we're sitting at an hour and a half now. It's close enough. I don't fucking care.
I'm feeling good right now. I say let's just. When was the last time we had a show we ended when we're both feeling good?
We're smiling when we leave the show. Well, we're usually smiling.
Yeah,
even
that's
if we're
true, but
pissed
for
off,
different
so.
reasons.
Yeah. So I guess we're gonna end with Josh Smith.
Yes.
Because
Check him out.
why give somebody else? Why give these other two fucking morons any more time of day when we do have another option? We do have a candidate out there that is willing to, you know, step up and say, fuck this. And he'll literally on a debate stage
I'm
say,
sure he will.
Fuck this. We ain't doing this shit no more.
Yeah.
I mean, burning down the ATF and creating dog parks, that's enough for my vote.
That's a win.
That is enough. I mean, what do we got to lose?
Right.
Another federal building not getting blown up accidentally,
right?
By
a whole bunch of people
homegrown
getting
terrorists.
shot. You know?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And I mean, everything he said was like spot on. The stuff
Yeah.
about the nuclear families being the cause of
Yes.
like falling apart, being the cause of a lot of the shit that's. I mean, this is stuff
Absolutely.
that, like he said, nobody talks about this because that would be. I mean, that would be negative towards single family
and he's
homes.
got great views on education system.
Yeah.
And I mean, so it's like I said, he's got really good ideas for things. You don't see candidates usually it's like, well, if you vote for me, you'll see what I'm doing.
Yeah, like Donald Trump. I got a really good plan if you vote for me. Everybody says it's a really good plan if you vote for me. I'll let you know am I really good.
Right.
We voted. Well, we didn't.
Yeah.
He was put in office, and did you see his really good plan?
No, but I heard a lot about it.
Not much of it.
We had to vote for him a second time to see the whole thing.
Now, I guess the only thing about Trump I want to say is, what are the odds that that mugshot, that Scally mugshot, ends up being his campaign banner?
Oh, you know it will be. He's already using it.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
He's like selling merch with that shit.
Yeah,
on
yeah.
there already.
That's like his Che Guevara shirt.
Jesus Christ. You know, they've his campaign's raised over $7 million just since he went to jail.
Oh, I believe it. I believe it.
He's not going anywhere, but guess who else isn't going anywhere? Josh Smith.
Right.
And thank God there are people out there like Josh Smith.
Yes.
In the very least, I mean, he's not ashamed to say there's a good chance we're not going to fucking win this. He's not ashamed. But in the very least, it's highly entertaining.
Right.
I know that Josh is going to be the one that no matter what he's doing, he's going to burn down the shit as he goes. He's going to leave a freaking trail of freaking tears of the politicians and
oh my gosh,
candidates and stuff as he goes.
I would. The only thing I would love to see is him on the debate stage with Biden and Trump. Oh my gosh,
that would be so fucking awesome. I would give it 15%, guys.
15%.
15%.
That's the goal.
Share Josh. Share this show, obviously, but share Josh far and wide with everybody you know, because 15% is all we need to get Josh on the debate stage with Donald Trump and Joe Biden. Because I mean, like he said, if he gets 10%, was it 5% or 10%?
5%.
5%, he'll be able to be on the stage like next time.
Right.
But next time's not going to be Joe Biden and Donald Trump.
Exactly.
We need him on the stage with
Joe
Biden and Trump. So we
Yes.
need 15%. If you have friends that are like, you know what, I'm sick of this bullshit.
Yeah.
I'm sick of politics. Josh Smith.
Yeah.
He's not a politician. If you have friends that are like, you know what, Joe Biden's a fucking idiot. Josh Smith. If you got friends that are like, Donald Trump's a fucking idiot. Josh Smith.
Yeah.
Share it around.
Or if they're both like, well, they both suck, I don't know what to do, be like Josh Smith.
Oh, it's the lesser of two evils.
No.
Guess who else is the lesser? Who's not
Exactly.
evil? Josh Smith.
Yes.
Share Josh. We
Get him
need
on the
it.
fucking stage.
There's never been a more important moment in your life than just getting Josh Smith to tell Biden and Trump to fuck off on
Yes.
the national debate
Yes.
stage.
Yes.
And I would die a happy man that night
Oh my
if I got to
gosh,
see that
yes.
happen.
Yes, the feds could come in and put 2 in my head and call it suicide, and I'd be good.
That's all I need. That's what I live for. Thomas says 5% gets majority party status. 10% is his goal. I'm glad somebody was listening more than we were. Thank you. 15% polling to get to this year's debates.
All
I
right.
knew it was 5.
15% polling. That's what we need.
All right, so 15% to get to the debates. So I mean, I was listening. That I might not have got all the numbers straight, but I got
Yes.
the 15% right because that's the most important thing
Yes.
right now.
Yeah.
It is your mission. The crack pipe to Biden would be great too.
Yes.
Absolutely. If I mean, that's it. That's all I got to say.
Yeah.
Vote for Josh Smith so we can get him to hand a crack pipe to Joe Biden on the debate stage. That's it. That's all we need. That's all we have. Make sure you check us out all over the social medias. Like I said, we can be found at the handle at Break the Bell Pod on Twitter and Facebook. You can also find us at our website at breakthebellpod.com. Find links to everything we do, our merch, and some cool shit. And definitely follow Josh wherever he goes. And maybe, I mean, maybe there's hope for this cycle after all.
I have hope now.
I have hope for at least the entertainment value
Yes.
of it. So we're going to get out of here. We won't take up any more of your time. There's no need to go into the other shit that's going on. So again, check us all, share us on social medias. Otherwise, be back here next week. We'll do another fun one. Probably not nearly that good because unless we can get Josh back again
That would be
after
cool.
Timcast, we could get post Tim Josh Smith with his
I
big
like it.
ego and
Yes.
yeah,
We might have to give him like a chilled toilet seat or something. I don't know,
Yes.
but we'll do it.
Have a great rest of your week. We'll catch you next time.
Peace.
Goodbye.
The Break the Bell podcast is brought to you by you. So pat yourself on the back because without you, we would be talking to ourselves. A special thanks to our Patreon members, Justin Zielinski, Remzo Martinez, Stephanie Parker, and T.O. Jacobson. A shout out to our sponsors, Run Your Mouth Coffee, the On the Run podcast, and Goulash Media. If you'd like to help support us, visit patreon.com/breakthebell or buy our garbage at breakthebell.bigcartel.com. Get back here next week and let us continue to invade your ear holes. And as always, never stop talking.